Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. So inshallah today, I think that we might end slightly sooner, and inshallah we'll still continue to just make some dhikr up until it's time to pray 2 rak'at. So inshallah we can all get the reward of praying 2 rak'at, and inshallah the reward of Hajj and Umrah, as we do every Sunday morning, inshallah. Okay, so last week we discussed the first 10 ayat, and in the last 3 of these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had started telling us about a group of people that was unknown in Mecca, and these were the munafiqeen. So the word munafiq, it comes from a root word in Arabic, which means the lizard's burrow. And subhanAllah, interesting thing is that the lizard's burrow has 2 openings. It has 2 openings. That if whatever wants to eat that lizard comes in from this side, it escapes from the other. If it comes in from that side, it escapes from this side. So for the lizard, it's a good thing, but for a person to keep ties with Iman and Kufr and keep this opening that, hey, you know what, if things get hot on this side, I will go to the other. If things get hot on that side, I will go to this one. This is basically what nifaq is. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we'll just recap the last 3 ayat, that He says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. Oh, it's not showing. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَا هُمْ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And there are some who say, we believe in Allah and the last day, yet they are not believers. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They seek to deceive Allah and the believers, yet they only deceive themselves, but they fail to perceive it. في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا. There is a sickness in their hearts, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only lets their sickness increase. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ. They will suffer a painful punishment for their lies. So the last thing we had mentioned was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us how to identify these people, and one characteristic that has been identified so far is bima kanu yakdhibun, because they lie. That one of the key characteristics of a person that has nifaq is that they lie a lot. Because of course, if you have 2 sides to please, so you have to use lying to cover yourself. So they lie frequently. And so in Islam, as a believer, we are not supposed to lie even in small things. We are supposed to be precise in our wordings. Either be accurate or don't speak. If somebody says, if you're running late, and somebody says, hey, have you left your house yet? And you have not left your house yet. Many people frequently say, yeah, I'm on the way already, right? And that's a lie. If you're not on the way, it's a lie. So a person needs to remember that don't even lie on small things like that. Where a person may change the topic or remain silent, or whatever a person may have to do if they cannot answer the truth at this time. But we're not supposed to lie, and of course when we lie, then the kids pick it up as well. So this is something that will come all the time, that the munafiqeen, they will come lie. Whenever the Prophet ﷺ says, okay guys, we have a mission to go out to, the munafiqeen come and they say, Ya Rasulullah, my leg is hurting, I have this problem, I have that problem, my family needs me. They will come and they will make false excuses in order to get out of that. So at every turn of the way, they will basically lie to get out of it. And then they are even lying to the disbelievers. And what they are doing is they stay close to the believers when things are good. And when difficult times come, they show up on the other door. And they say, hey, we thought you guys were with them. They're like, no, don't worry about them. We are with you. We're just joking with them. You think we're going to be like those fools? We're just with them because, we live in the area. But we are not really with them. We are with you. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will address in these 10 ayat, that how these people are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next ayah, ayah number 11, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. When they are told, do not spread corruption in the land, they reply, we are only peacemakers. So this intense struggle that's taking place between kufr and iman. So at this time, the people who are basically not choosing clearly who they are with, they're going in between, they're spying, and usually what they're doing is that they are spying on the side of the believers and informing the other people in order to keep some sort of protection for themselves. They're like, okay, this is our insurance policy, that look, we're giving you beneficial information, so if you guys manage to win, you guys will take care of us and not harm us. So this is called fasad. This is called mischief. This is called mischief. And if you tell them, that, hey, why are you doing this? Why don't you remain sincere? Stay on one side. So what do they say? We say, no, we're not causing fasad. We are peacemakers. We're trying to bring the two sides together. But the reality is that if you ask the other side, so in Islam, whenever there's conflict, whether it's a physical, violent conflict, or it is a conflict of opinions or disagreements or things like that, the sincere believer says, look, we have a stance because this is what Allah and His Messenger say. We will stay firm on that, but we don't necessarily want problems with you. Okay? You leave us alone, you do whatever you want. Lakum dinukum waliya din. But it's usually the other side that says, no, that's not acceptable. And they are the ones that want to start fighting. If you look at the amount of torture, persecution that is directed towards Muslims, sincere believers, they are not saying that, hey, we are going to come back and do this to you. They just want to worship. Think about in Mecca. However, these people, they are not pleased with just leaving people to do what they want to do. So when you look at it, they are not really interested in peace. And even in now, what's happening in Gaza, you're like, okay, well, are they actually interested in a ceasefire? Are they interested in ending the conflict? And the answer is they're not interested in ending the conflict. In fact, they wanted an excuse to go to have this green light from the world community to go ahead and do whatever they want. And now, more and more news are coming out again that they had detailed plans of the attack of October 7th. They had, Israeli intelligence had detailed plans about it. They had, documents showing paragliders and all that type of stuff. And they did not do it. And they had it for more than 1 year. They had it for a year. And they said, oh, no, it's not a big deal. So basically, it seems like they're like, okay, well, if they do this, what could we do in return? So instead of planning a way to stop it, they said, well, let's see how we can milk this. Let's see how we can take full advantage of it, get something much bigger out of that. So whenever you tell them that, hey, what are you doing? Be on the right side. They say, hey, we are just trying to make peace between the two sides. Like, okay, we are ready to make peace. Are they ready to make peace? No, they are not ready to make peace. They don't want to make peace. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْمُفْسِدُونَ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. Indeed, it is they who are the corrupters, but they fail to perceive it. They fail to perceive it, that they are causing corruption by. So, I'm reading this book called From Dictatorship to Democracy. Dictatorship to Democracy. And it is a book about non-violent ways to challenge strong, powerful dictatorships. And one of the things that this political scientist says in it, he says that if you are the peaceful, non-violent struggle, and when you start to gain ground, you're going to get offers to sit down and negotiate by the dictators, right? Say, okay, let's sit down, let's resolve this matter internally, because when they see the fire lighting up under their feet, they're like, okay, you know what? Let's get these guys and let's sit them down and let's discuss terms, a truce. So he says that they want truce because what they want to get out of it is that, okay, we're going to stay in power, but we'll give you some breadcrumbs. We'll give you some breadcrumbs. But he says, if you negotiate, when you're not engaging in any violence, do not negotiate with them. Do not negotiate with them. Don't accept anything but unconditional surrender and, the power to be returned to the people and the standard institutions and whatnot, because this whole attempt at negotiations is only there usually done to weaken you. Because what motivation do they have? If they really want peace and you are saying that we want, justice, we want the people to be able to choose and, you guys are not legitimate or whatnot. If they really want peace, they would say, okay, look, here's my resignation on the table. Let's figure out. He says the only thing you should negotiate with them is to allow them safe passage out of the country. No other thing. They will say, well, okay, we will take 3 of your guys and we will appoint them to such and such ministry. He says that they are only doing this in order to buy time, because right now they might not have been prepared for it. They want to know who the leaders are. They want to know what your plans are. And through negotiations, they are trying to find out. So then later on, they can tamp down and they will basically crush everything. So he says, don't negotiate with them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, Ala innahum humul mufsidun. These people who know the truth, who know the falsehood, but they're still going in between, they are the ones that are really causing the corruption over here. They are the ones that are really causing the corruption. Then he says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسِ قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ السُّفَهَاءُ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And when they are told, believe as the others believe. So who are you talking about? You're talking about the Sahaba, right? The sincere people who have made sacrifices, people who have given up their wealth, people who have given up their houses, their prestige in Mecca. So now somebody says, hey, why don't you become a sincere believer? Look at these people. So they look at them, they're like, oh, that guy who had a fledgling, business in Mecca and he gave it all up and now he is surviving on breadcrumbs from sadaqah. You want me to be like him? So they're looking at it from this perspective. They are fools. Why would you do such a thing? Why would you be so committed that you would shoot yourself in the foot by giving up everything and then coming and then living this miserable life? So they're looking at it from a dunya perspective and they're saying that these people are fools. You want us to believe أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ السُّفَهَاءُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He responds on behalf of those Sahaba, the people that they are calling sufaha, the people they are calling foolish. They're saying they are themselves the foolish ones. وَلَكِنْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But they don't recognize, they don't realize. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا. When they meet the believers, they say, we believe. وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ. But when alone with their evil associates, they say, إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. We are definitely with you, we're only mocking, we're only joking, we're just playing. These are little kids, these are foolish people. We're just, smiling in their faces, but we're not really seriously with them. Don't think we are with you. And of course, on the other side, they are saying the same thing. And they're making a mockery of these people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allahu yastahzi'u bihim wa yamudduhum fi tughyanihim ya'mahun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will throw their mockery back at them, right? So often it is translated as that Allah is mocking them. But perhaps the more precise translation is here, which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of their mockery and He will turn their mockery back against them. Allahu yastahzi'u bihim wa yamudduhum fi tughyanihim ya'mahun, leaving them to continue wandering blindly in their defiance. So, so these people, when think about ayah number 14, that when they go to the bad people, the other side, they even ask them, like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Like, meaning they also, these people who are two-sided people, do you think they have the respect of anyone? No. Even the people that they go to, the other side, even those guys internally, they say, look at these fools. They think that they are with us. There's a famous story about Genghis Khan, that these two people, they came to him and they informed him about something about the other side. I believe it was his brother who was basically fighting with him. And these two people, they rebelled against his brother, and they came and they said, we believe you as our leader, and we are here to help you. And they provided him information. So afterwards, he said, you know what, execute these guys. They said, look, we came to help you. He said, if you can betray your Khan today, you're going to betray me tomorrow. Okay, you're betraying your other leader that you were with for so many years. You're betraying him today because you feel like we have an advantage. Tomorrow, when the chance comes, you're going to betray us as well. And he says, I have no respect for people who are traitors. So he had them executed as well. So these people, they don't have a respect. So they have to go and they have to convince them. They say, look, we are with you. We are with you. We are just joking with them. Because, like, okay, where does your loyalty lie? So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who realizes and He throws their mockery back at them, He says, وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. So He extends them in their rebellion, right? That He's saying, okay, you want to go deeper into this rebellion. There's this YouTube videos that people do where they go to bad neighborhood where people steal stuff. And what they do is that they take a bike. And you know that in those neighborhoods, growing up in New York City, bikes used to get stolen a lot. One time I actually caught a guy stealing my bike. I just walked out and he was trying to cut the lock of my bike. So in these neighborhoods, these guys, they go there and they get a nice bike and they basically leave it unlocked. But what they do is that they tie a very long rope to the bottom of the bike. And they tie the other side of the rope to a pole or a tree or something. And these guys, this is not a nice thing to do, but to give you an example, that they put it somewhere where there's like a downhill slope. Okay? Now the thief, he wants to get out as fast as possible. So he comes, he sees the bike, and he gets on it, and he starts going full speed. Okay? 100, 200 feet rope. And then what happens? When the rope runs out, they fall in the most violent manner. Just think about that. All of a sudden, your bike stopped. You're going at 20 miles per hour, and all of a sudden, your bike stops. These guys, they go flying. So if you look at how violent that fall is, and of course, these guys, they know they are stealing, so they get up and they just, run away if they can, because they were stealing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, you know what? These people, وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you want to go, you want to do this, you're stealing, okay, I'll give you a long rope. The longer the rope is, when the grasping comes, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grabs them, it is that much worse. It is that much worse. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. And while they are doing this rebellion, they have become blind. That they are blind of the heart. They're not looking at and realizing that how bad it is that I am doing. أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى فما ربحت تجارتهم وما كانوا مهتدين. They are the ones who traded guidance for misguidance. But this trade is profitless and they are not rightly guided. They are not muhtadeen. So remember, they were calling the believers sufaha, foolish, and they were calling them foolish because they're like, hey man, this guy had a big business, he was very wealthy, he gave it all up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now giving a trade example, saying that you guys had iman easy. The munafiqeen were people in Medina, and Islam came to them in Medina, and it was accepted by the wide society as opposed to in Mecca where it wasn't. So these people, they are the few minority, a few people that have not believed, and anytime they believe, they actually get an upgrade. So for them, Islam is very easy, but even despite it being easy and knowing that it is the truth, they decided to trade guidance for misguidance. So, فَمَا رَبِحَتْ تِجَارَتُهُمْ. There is no profit in this trade that they have made. وَمَا كَانُوا مُهْتَدِينَ. And they are not. So muhtadeen, it has the connotation of guidance with hard work. Guidance with that, meaning when you struggle in the path and you get that guidance, then these people are people who never spent any effort looking for guidance. It came easy to them, but even they abandoned that easy guidance. And by the way, anybody that comes from a Muslim family, we are those people. That guidance came easy to us. Look at somebody who converted to Islam. What they had to do, the conversations they've had to have with their family. Think about that day when they come home and they tell their family that, hey, we are giving up. There are cases all the time where people, they say, okay, their parents, think about what does your child have to do for you to kick them out of the house? And very commonly, these people, they get kicked out of their houses. A lot of times they lose their jobs, they lose their entire social circle. So it's very difficult for them. They really pay the price for it. But for many of us, we are born in a Muslim family. We found Islam at home. We found our kids, our parents teaching, taking us to the masjid and everything like that. Everything came easy. But then a lot of times you still see that person who struggled so much to become Muslim, their commitment to Islam is more. They want to learn the Qur'an. They want to learn Arabic. They want to learn the Salah properly and try to do it properly. While us, we have been given it for free. And we're like, okay, yeah, I have 20 Qur'ans at home, but I don't read a single one of them. I have been Muslim. I was born in a Muslim family for 30, 40, 50 years, and I have not attended any, classes or any type of educational programs in order to become a companion of the Qur'an. So these are things that we all have to reflect on, and then we also need to understand that when we see a new Muslim, and maybe they're not the perfect in their practice of Islam, so we need to give them that room that, they literally became Muslim a year or 2 years ago. In some cases maybe they became Muslim a month ago, a week ago. And they might come and they might say something or they might do something which they don't understand properly. But we have to basically be kind with them and appreciate that they are giving up a lot for Islam, while we got it easy. So these people, they were muhtadeen. Hidayah came to them easy, but they did not accept that, and they traded it out for something which is much more harmful, which is misguidance. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives two examples of them. He says, مَثَلُهُمْ كَمَثَلِ الَّذِي اسْتَوْقَدَ نَارًا فَلَمَّا أَضَاءَتْ مَا حَوْلَهُ ذَهَبَ اللَّهُ بِنُورِهِمْ وَتَرَكَهُمْ فِي ظُلُمَاتٍ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. Their example is that of someone who kindles a fire, but when it lights all around them, all around him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away their light, leaving them in complete darkness, unable to see. Unable to see. So think about this example, that it's pitch black and you're out in the desert and it's pitch black. So one person manages to kindle a fire. And after they kindle a fire, they're able to add more wood to it, and they are able to have a nice fire. Now they can see all around. Now, as soon as everything is lit up and they can see, okay, where are we? Some people among them, they lose their sight. It's darkness in front of their eyes. Okay? So, some of the scholars say that the person who is kindling the fire, who is that person? The Prophet ﷺ, right? The Prophet ﷺ comes in a pitch black environment, kindles a fire, and lights up everything around. When everything is lit up, so look at what Allah says. Istawqada nara, alladhi istawqada nara. Right? One person made a fire. فَلَمَّا أَضَاءَتْ مَا حَوْلَهُ. Then when everything around him was lit, ذَهَبَ اللَّهُ بِنُورِهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took their light away. One person made the fire, but the people who were now able to benefit from that fire, their light is gone. They are gone blind, or whatever has happened, they cannot see anymore. وَتَرَكَهُمْ فِي ظُلُمَاتٍ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. And He leaves them in darkness and they're not able to see. صُمٌّ بُكْمٌ عُمْيٌ فَهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. They are willfully deaf, mute, and blind, and they will never return to the right path. So this person, if you are in a pitch black place and you are now blind, it's lit, but you are blind. So what does a blind person do in order to try to find where the other people are? He listens, where is the sound coming from? But guess what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Summum bukmun umyun. They are deaf, they are mute, they are blind. So if you can't hear, what do? You call out. Say, hey guys, I'm here. Can anybody come and get me? Guess what? They cannot talk. They're mute as well. They cannot hear. They cannot see. This is the example of these people who have chosen this darkness. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that they, because of their actions, the light is all around them, but they have become like this, where they are not able to benefit from the guidance that exists around them. Then he gives the second example. أو كصيب من السماء فيه ظلمات ورعد وبرق يجعلون أصابعهم في آذانهم من الصواعق حذر الموت والله محيط بالكافرين. Or those caught in a rainstorm from the sky with darkness, thunder, and lightning. You know, over here we don't get really low clouds and these really heavy storms. Once in a while you see those. I mean, it doesn't even rain much here. But in other places, when it rains real heavy. I don't know if you remember a few months ago when we had a hailstorm over here. I was out and trying to rush to get home before the thing arrives. And that day, the cloud was so dark and it was completely blocking the sun out. And it was a scary situation. And the forecast said that there's going to be hail, and a lot of people, I saw lots of people, their cars got damaged with huge hails coming down. So it is, imagine a person in a situation where they're seeing this dark cloud, which is full of thunder and lightning, loud, and the light is flashing, so it's like really scary, and the light is going away. So what does a person do in order to protect himself? يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِمْ مِنَ الصَّوَاعِقِ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ. They press their fingers into their ears at the sound of every thunderclap for fear of death. Is this a smart thing to do or not a smart thing to do? If you are around danger, do you want to lose some of your senses, or do you want to use them to protect yourself? Of course, the answer is you want to use them. If you are around danger, if you are caught, if you're in a cage with a dangerous animal, you want to be able to see him, you want to be able to smell him, you want to be able to hear him, you want all your senses. But if you say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to close my ears and close my eyes, so then I will not get harmed, it's not going to change anything. So these people, this is the reality of their foolishness, that they think that by them pretending that this is not the truth, then this is not the truth. But that's not the reality. By pretending that those guys are okay, they're good guys, they're not really that bad, that doesn't make them good guys. By pretending and playing this role that, oh no, you know what, we'll be okay, don't worry about it, there's no hellfire, we'll be okay, we're good people. All of that pretense is not going to help you. You have to face the reality. This is the truth, this is the falsehood. So Wallahu muhitun bil kafirin. So they basically, it's loud and scary, and they are trying to pretend like there's no problem by putting their fingers in their ears. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah encompasses the believers by His might, disbelievers by His might. So where did the disbelievers come from? We were talking about munafiqeen, right? We're talking about people who are pretending to be believers and showing themselves as believers, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He knows what's inside of them. Inside is kufr. Inside is kufr. So, Wallahu muhitun bil kafirin, yakadul barqu yakhtafu absarahum. It is as if the lightning were about to snatch away their sight. Kullama adaa lahum mashaw fi. Whenever lightning strikes, they walk in its light. وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا. But when darkness covers them, they stand still. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَذَهَبَ بِسَمْعِهِمْ وَأَبْصَارِهِمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed, He could have taken away their hearing and sight. Surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most capable of everything. So their eyes are still affected, even if they close their ears, they can see, but what happens is that they only come to Islam when there is that flash of lightning, right? So it's getting dark, but then the lightning strikes and they're like, okay, well, there's a little bit of light, so they come closer. But then whenever the lightning goes away, then they stand still, meaning that they come close to Islam only in good times. When things are benefiting them, they say, okay, let me come a little bit closer. But then as soon as there's difficulty, they basically stop. So what is the reality of these munafiqeen? And this is something that all of us have to reflect on, is that they are not willing to give up their comfort. They are not willing to give up their comfort. They will follow the truth as long as truth is comfortable. But the reality of truth is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Qur'an, He says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ, that indeed mankind is in loss, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, except for those who believe and who do righteous deeds. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and they remind and encourage each other about the truth, and they remind and encourage each other about patience. The scholar said, why do they have to remind each other about patience? Because they say that the reality of Iman and righteous life is that you can't just do it yourself, you need to encourage other people. It's a collective effort. But when you start to do this type of da'wah to other people, to invite them to believe and do righteous deeds as well, difficulties will come your way. Trials will come your way. Resistance will come your way. But we are supposed to be patient and remind each other, be patient. Victory will come. Victory will come, but be patient. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that these people, they are only coming close when there is a little spark of light, but when there is no light, they say, no, I'm not going to go anymore. They're not willing to take any risks. They're not willing to take any risks. But the people who are determined to make it to their destination, they say, well, darkness or light, I'm going to go, right? I will figure out something, but I will not stop. I will not stop. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most capable of everything. So now, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about three groups of people in the last 20 ayat, right? The sincere believers, the disbelievers, and the people who are in between. So now in the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, Ya ayyuhan nas, all of you together. Let me tell you what's the right way. Whoever you are, the right way is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اُعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. O people, all humanity, all of you people, worship your Lord who created you and those before you, so that you may become mindful, so that you may gain taqwa. Now remember the second ayah, we said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, that this is a book of guidance that is for those who have taqwa. So now here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you want to become a people of taqwa, start worshiping your Lord. Start worshiping your Lord. And also the word worship, اُعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ عِبَادَةً, it has the meaning of doing the rituals. It also has a meaning of whose slave are you? Who are you serving? Are you serving the dunya? Are you serving these other masters of yours? Or is your master Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you make your master Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you become a slave to him, then this is the way that you will become people of taqwa, and this is the way that you will find guidance. But if you choose any other Lord, lots of people, they may be doing the rituals to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but their real Lord is someone else. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's power. Maybe it's these, different evil powers. Whatever the case is, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all of them. Inshallah, we'll stop here. We try to do 10 ayat every week. And inshallah, we hope to continue next week with the next 10 ayat. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all the proper understanding. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. So inshallah, in about 3 minutes, it will be sunrise. So just make dhikr. If you want the full reward, don't talk about any worldly matters. Read your Qur'an, make your dhikr, make your tasbih, make your dua, and then inshallah, give it another maybe 10 minutes, and then inshallah we can pray 2 rak'at and go out for breakfast, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Anybody have any questions or comments or suggestions? Okay, Jazakumullah khair. When exactly Surah Al-Fatiha was revealed? So Surah Al-Fatiha is a Makki surah, is a Meccan surah. And Surah Al-Fatiha, let me get back to you as to what time the Mufassirin say that it was revealed in. Let me just check my notes if I have anything there. Okay, let me look into that, inshallah.